It looks like we are live.
Yep, I just got it on my phone.
Hooray. Okay. And there's Hoosier and Lincoln. Hello, hello. All right, let me mute this. Pop out the chat. Move this over. Oh, what should I just do with the chat? Oh, that's better. Okay, now I can see it. All right, folks in the chat, can you see Charlie and me?
Hello, hello.
And Sandy.
Hi.
Uh-oh, no, I think they don't see, I don't think they see us. I think they only are seeing you. Oh, there we go. Hey!
Hey, there you go.
Oh, we're juxtaposed. All right, word of the day, juxtaposed.
You know, and I feel like we need...
Poke you, I'd like... Yeah.
There you go. Make sure he's awake. I do feel like we need some kind of intro music because I was humming your theme song yet again yesterday morning as I was shaving. I don't know what connection that has to Reisers Treasure Hunting Emporium, but it was good. All right. Well, hello, everybody. Where do we begin? I mean, I'll just kind of give this little thesis and people can say, we didn't talk about this, Charlie, but I think a YouTube channel is definitely defined by a couple of things. It certainly is defined by the content, right? You need content that's meaningful and engaging, and your two channels absolutely do that, but arguably so, and even more so, I think it's the people behind the channel, because to me, interesting content doesn't mean a whole lot if it's not created by good people, and that describes the two of you. And everybody in chat, I think, knows who you are. Charlie's the host of Reisers Treasure Hunting Emporium, and Sandy is the host of Ghost Talk with the Reisers. And we have some questions that we're going to just go back and forth with. And if you're in chat and want to ask a question, by all means do. Just put an @ sign in front of Charlie's name or Sandy's name or my name, and we'll do our best to get to it. But yeah, this may move kind of fast and furiously, but it will be fun. I think it will be. All right, so let me move this over. Okay, Charlie, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
I don't know how long I've known you, probably a couple of years online. And the name of your channel has always really interested me. Right, so your YouTube channel and Facebook channel obviously is Reisers Treasure Hunting Emporium. Very catchy channel name. Why did you choose that name?
Well, we could break it down, right? The first part is rather easy. Reiser, that's me. The second two parts, treasure hunting. Why, that's vague enough to not only be a little bit of clickbait, but it's broad enough to let me do a number of different things. So that was kind of that part. You know, not only is it about metal detecting or even weird stuff. Even if I wanted to go and peruse the flea market and try to find treasures there, why that kind of includes that too. There's so many different kinds of treasure out there, which I think we'll allude to later. And then the final part, Emporium. Now, when I was first trying to create the name, I was trying to dig up a terminology from the past. You know, it was, you know, for a while there, you know, I was thinking about, you know, Reisers Treasure Hunting Mercantile. And I was like, no, you know, Reisers Treasure Hunting and Haberdashery. No. So I happened to be looking at photographs of the Old West and some of the old gold mining towns. And I was actually specifically looking at like general stores and whatnot. And one of the stores I remember I was looking at was called an Emporium. And I thought, you know what, that would kind of fit. And again, the whole name, it kind of really allows me a broad enough spectrum to do anything, you know. So I kind of stuck with it. And then it's annoying. It's actually quite obnoxious. If I go into a chat that people don't really know me, they try to say the whole thing. you know. Unfortunately, the folks over at Panic D Paranormal, who I visit every now and again,
Yeah.
they instead of just saying Reiser, no, they try to run through the whole thing, and I take up a third of their chat time with my name, and but no, for the most part, everybody just says Reiser or Charlie, but it's a good name. That, and then it has, I don't know, I like the initials of it, even though spell check is your enemy when you have initials like that, because it just wants to throw you back as the. But
Yeah.
There's somebody up the street. I don't know who they are. Their license plate is a vanity plate, and it's R plus HE. And whenever I see it, I think it's RTHE.
That's it.
I'm not going to steal it or anything, but I think that'd be a good one to send your way. No, that's great. I love that story because the Emporium has a connection to you and history, and that's a big part of your channel, I think. And you mentioned the treasure piece, so I think I know the answer to the first part of this question. Second part, no. So, do you consider yourself a treasure hunter? And what to you is treasure?
Well, let's tackle that second part first, okay? Because treasure is actually a very broad subject. I know when a lot of people hear the term treasure, and they automatically think, oh, gold, silver, but
Right.
actually no, treasure is much more broader of a definition. I mean, to me, treasure is knowledge, treasure is time, treasure could be even a place. I mean, there's so much engulfed in treasure. People are treasure. I'm sure you folks who have kids or whatnot, or even Sandy's. Why you treasure them. So that definition is so broad. Why you could say yes, I am definitely a treasure hunter because of all these other things that I do treasure and look for, look after, and research, and the whole nine. Why, yes, indeed, I am a treasure hunter, and
That's a good connection with the people thing, because how many treasures have been discovered or searched for because they didn't necessarily read about it in a book or some sort of old document. They heard somebody else talking about it, or somebody kind of led them in that direction, or somebody introduced them to it, and the rest is history. Oh, awesome. Okay. Now, you're a metal detectorist, obviously. I think folks who watch your channel know that, and really impressed with the amount of times that you go out there. Tell us a little bit how and when you entered the metal detecting hobby. Was it something you did in your younger days? Did you pick it up later on? How did you start metal detecting?
well, I started as a late teen metal detecting. And at that young age, I probably didn't really fully appreciate what I was doing, or actually really how to do it, or actually even appreciate what was coming out of the ground. It probably wasn't until my 30s did I fully started appreciating what was in the ground and what the different possibilities were of the materials coming out of the ground.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you could say, yeah, okay, I've been metal detecting since my teens, but I didn't have the full appreciation for it until probably well into my, I would say my early 30s. And because, in life, or in, we'll say science doesn't connect the two. Okay, they don't connect really the processes and etc. They'll teach you about a subject without applying the methods of retrieving that information. I mean, you can if you really get deep into archaeology, but even still, I mean, there's a lot of things that archaeology will not show you. For an example, if you're on an Indian site, okay, the archaeologist will diagram and document all the pieces coming out of the ground, but they neglect certain topics, such as in my area. I don't care what Native American site you're on, but if you're digging, you'll get sassafras, the smell of sassafras as you're digging, almost, I would say, 90% of the time. And it's actually for me, it's an important part of locating a site. I know if I'm digging and I come across that aroma, that smell, I'm going to want to expand that target area.
Oh, that's interesting.
But yet, you will not find that in any kind of archaeological survey or nothing of that nature.
Hmm.
And again, that actually comes from a guy who I treasured, spending time with a man by the name of Alan Carmen. He probably taught me about, I would have to say, 90% of the minutia of the local Lenape Indian, and he was a pottery guy. And when I talk about minutia for Native American pottery, he had some of the weirdest facts, basically like mold. Who would ever think that mold was an issue for the Native Americans? Or he even got down to the coil construction of the pots and that type of stuff. It was just quite fascinating that he could gather so much, being an advocational archaeologist, meaning he did it for the self-satisfaction. And it was just amazing, the information that he was able to attain.
That's interesting. Hoosier has a question that I think was asked by Value Hunter, perhaps a few more. And hello to everybody in the chat. What is the significance of the sassafras? Do you have a theory as to why?
I don't have a theory as of the connection between the two, but I mean, if I was to only offer an educated guess, the natives were very, very big as far as native herbs and that kind of thing. One of the other things to try and find a native, this is going to sound a little odd, wildflowers. If you have wildflowers growing where they kind of shouldn't be growing, more than likely over time there has been a Native American burial near there, because basically the seeds and whatnot in the stomach will eventually foster a new generation of plant life. But did they use sassafras? I'm more than sure. How they used it, I do not know.
They must have realized that it's a sweet smelling, or some people would say a sweet smelling plant, and maybe it's drinking tea from a Reiser's treasure hunting Emporium mug, if they had one. But they must have realized it had value, so it makes sense. That's really interesting. So apart from the sassafras, what would you say is or was your first really interesting object that you found, and do you still have it?
Oh boy. Well, okay. Well, the first.
Or pick one.
Sandy, I have to answer Sandy. Okay.
You found her in the ground? What?
Second from Sandy. Dug her up. No. Apart from Sandy, my unfortunately has a sad story to it. When I was that younger guy, that late teen guy, I did find a half Indian, a gold half Indian, 1913.
Wow.
Oh, now we have to go to the sad story. Being that young guy and probably not fully appreciating what it was or how rare that was to find out of the ground. That young guy said, "Oh, that will buy blah, 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 blah." Not realizing that it wasn't going to be every day that I found one.
Right. Yeah, because surely another one's just around the corner, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they came out one weekend. I thought for sure if I got out there the following weekend, there'd be another one. But that's only been, let's see, 20 plus many years ago. So, yeah. And you know what? I need to find another one now. I mean, back then, YouTube wasn't even a thought. But now with YouTube, I need to find another one now. But now there would be a different mantra towards it. If I found one now, it could probably never part with me.
Right.
But yeah, at the same time, I don't know how I would handle it now at this age versus that old young age. But I don't know.
I wonder if any other detectorists have, in their earlier times, have done that. But you're right. I think as we get older, we appreciate things more, and we Yeah, we're perhaps a bit more impetuous, or we don't really think ahead a whole lot when, that gold coin will buy a new stereo system or whatever, whatever you ended up purchasing with the proceeds from it. Did you use to buy a metal detector or another metal detector?
Oh no, that young guy. Oh my goodness, that young guy. I don't remember what he bought. It was probably something silly, and probably I don't remember what it was purchased, but it was probably something youngster silly.
Yeah. Well,
it was probably the new Atari. Or
water over the dam, though.
I think back on that young guy every now and again because I remember that young guy digging buttons, and that young guy not saving them or keeping them.
Yeah.
And I remember that young guy digging a number of other things that should have been. Yeah.
So we'll talk a little later about what recommendations you have for people who want to enter the profession. But you just mentioned one: don't throw the stuff away, unless it's radioactive or something.
Even at this age, I have this hard time of letting stuff go, and I've actually come across a couple of things by doing that, where some things will actually be corroded over, and it's like, you let it sit for a while, you eventually get around to cleaning, and then I actually will clean it like a year or so down the road and go, oh my goodness, and but
I do believe Sandy smirked when you said you have a hard time throwing things away.
He has overtaken an entire dining room table. Let's see. There's 2 curio cabinets that he's overtaken. Yeah, he has a hard time throwing things away.
Do you wish you had a different hobby?
No.
Good. Charlie, what was your first metal detector, and do you still have that?
No, unfortunately, no. My first metal detector was a Coin Master.
A White's.
Yes, it was a White's Coin Master 3000, I think, and it was a heavy thing. As a young guy, I didn't care how heavy it was. As an older guy, I can't imagine lugging that thing around anymore.
Because didn't it use like 20 batteries or something? And
I think it was 4C or 4D batteries. I don't remember.
Oh my.
That sucker was heavy.
It would be fun to try to find some of these vintage metal detectors and have a challenge with it and just see how they kind of a blast from the past. So your first metal detector was a White's, and well, I won't bias your answer, but are you right now you use a Garrett AT Pro? Yes,
that's right.
Okay, are you looking to upgrade?
Yes.
Are you happy with the Pro?
I am completely happy with the Pro. I'm trying to think of how old I've had that now. I think I've had it 3 years now.
No, it's been a while.
I think I've had it for 3 years.
Okay.
I'm slow to do anything. I try to remain humble in the hobby. Okay. I really don't promote the Cadillacs of metal detectors.
Mm-hmm.
I promote whatever's reasonably affordable, plus whatever gets you out there. That's what I promote.
Okay.
And the AT Pro is wonderful. It's fine. It's great. For me, if I do upgrade, which I'm kind of already got my mind set that I will be, I'm thinking about going to the Max. And I'm kind of 99% sure that's the direction I want to go. But I haven't done it as of yet. It's going to happen. I'm just slow as anything to do anything.
Would the learning curve be that difficult going from a Garrett machine to a Garrett machine?
I don't think so. I think it'll be rather equitable to what the Pro is.
Yeah. Paul mentioned, Charlie, what encouraged you to start your YouTube channel?
The hatred of TV. Well, I should say the hatred of modern TV.
What was that show with the 2 guys who went metal detecting and I don't know.
The Detectorists?
No, that's a funny. I highly recommend that show if anybody has access to BBC. No, the one with the 2 American guys, and they talk about roundness in the hole and
they do laps around the.
Yeah, I can't think of their names.
I was watching chat to see if somebody throws it up in there.
Yeah, remember what it's called?
Is that the kind of thing you're talking about?
No, no, not so much that. I mean, in general, I have this hatred of modern television.
Okay.
And I stress that modern television. Now, old TV, yeah, okay, I still have a passion for it. But as time went on, I did not see the value behind what the cable bill was. I didn't see what
Yeah.
quality of entertainment and information was coming out of this box anymore that was equitable to the price we were paying for it.
Right. Right.
And if I have personal feelings about something, okay, it's one thing to make a decision, but if you make that decision and then do nothing, then I felt kind of almost, I felt kind of contradictory as far as my feelings. So at the time, I mean, not only do I read an extensible amount, but I also write a lot. However, print, unfortunately, is fading in our daily lives. I thought, why not give this thing a whirl? This thing called YouTube. And from the time it started, I didn't really know how or what it was going to develop into. And so I thought, all right, well, I'll put my money where my mouth is, and we'll start this YouTube channel and kind of toy around with making it a program and try to have something that was worthwhile watching. And over time, it evolved into this other thing. I don't want to say other thing, but it's kind of grew a character of its own. You know, I have to say, I'm not the show. The show is whatever happens during the show. I know that sounds weird, but you have to kind of separate the two. So far, it's been, I don't know how long we're on here now. I don't see. Oh, it's 2:51. So far, it's been 21 minutes. I have not yet said, all right, gang. So
You just did.
yeah, I know. What I mean is, there's really two separate things there. Even the All Right Gang, that actually has a little bit of a history. When I started doing the videoing of the metal detecting finds, it felt absolutely crazy. Well, yeah, imagine that. It felt crazy talking to myself. So, so, so instead of talking to myself, I had to kind of figure out how to address whoever's watching. So, and the only thing that popped in my head was 1940s radio. And whenever somebody in the 1940s radio was being addressed, they'd say, "All right, gang," or "All right, the Jack and the gang will be right back," or something of that nature. So, "All right, gang" actually became part of I don't know, the Reisers treasure hunting Emporium lexicon of stuff.
Mhm.
And then it just kind of bled over into the live streams. It's actually punctuation if you listen carefully.
Well, it works. It's good to have a catchphrase or two.
But
Let's talk about
answer
another
that
popular
question?
part of your live streams. That's your treasure stories. So if you could take a year off and search for a legendary treasure, money was no object, what would you do? What treasure adventure would you go on?
Wow.
Because you talked about some interesting treasures that have not yet been discovered. Where would you start?
It's actually a very tough question. I mean, because it's a lot of people, and I'm far guilty of this myself. There's treasure in your backyard. And I mean that, like, if you take a map and you go 30 miles circumference of where you live, I'm more than sure there's treasures that abound in that area.
Mm.
Now, when you open the prospect to the world, now we have just almost an unlimited. Where would I go? I don't. And the trouble is, some of the ones I would like to get to, I'd get shot. I guess Egypt isn't exactly safe at the moment. See, it's a toughie.
All right. How
I
about
get shot in the Vatican.
the United States then? How
Hi?
about just in the United
About
States?
the
We'll limit it to the United States, so
All
you
right,
don't
that
get
makes
shot.
it
Although,
there's still chances of Reiser getting shot in the United States. But
Yeah, you
no,
live with me.
yes, see, but actually, I think if we did stick to the United States, I do believe I probably would go out west. I would try to do some of the old gold mining towns. You know, the towns and the mini cities that popped up for only several or a decade or so while the gold rush was there, and then they kind of vanished. I think I would love to do that.
I read something about, and it was just the other day, it was fairly recent, like in the past 5 years, somebody in California with a metal detector found a gold nugget that was like 70 ounces, some crazy amount. So things up there, and California gold kind of towns that would be interesting.
You know, I think I would focus more on the trying to find the relics of that era versus
Right.
actually looking for the gold itself. See, if I could do a collaboration with Flash in Your Pan. He can look for the gold. I'll look for the relics.
Do you have any concerns about the hobby itself? Restrictions, laws that are being passed saying that relics or mineral they belong to the state. Things have to be documented. The equipment, fellow detectorists who maybe aren't the brightest people in the world and give a bad reputation to the hobby. Do you think hobby? Are you concerned about any aspects of the hobby? Do you think its future is bright? And if you could change something, what would you do?
Wow.
That's a three-pronged question for you. Okay, so do you think the future of the hobby is bright?
Yes.
You don't think it's going anywhere?
No, I think there's still enough public areas and also too public interest in order to fight some of the legislation that some areas want to pass. As far as, you know, they either think they're the beach that sits in front of their house is actually part of their property because they don't want nobody out there obstructing the view. That's actually has happened to me before. and again, I think there's enough interest in the hobby and enough people to where people want to do this hobby to where they can't fully outlaw it. They can put these minuscule restrictions on it and try to prohibit you from being on certain places. But let's face it, as long as there's private property and you can somehow garner a relationship with a property owner and get on that property, it's not going anywhere. I mean, and again, it's all about how you handle yourself as far as, you know, door knocking or whatnot. Now, as far as my concerns about the legislation and everything else, I think it's kind of overreactionary. On
the part of the legislators?
Yes. I think there's times where people don't fully grasp what actually is important to the sake of archaeology versus what's really not important.
Yeah.
Where Reiser lived 2,000 years from now, it's not going to be important. So anybody, please, wherever I lived, come dig it up, take it away. But at the same time, we should not go on Mount Vernon with our metal detectors. You know, okay, we'll leave that one alone. We'll leave Gettysburg National Park alone. But yet, at the same time, since we have that large area protected and saved for the future, saved for future archaeology, you know what? 5 miles down the road, Farmer Smith's farm, he's already plowed it. He's already disturbed the layers and everything else. You know, it's fair game. Let it go. But I know that's
like you mentioned. No, go on.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, you mentioned door knocking in Farmer Brown's site. How do you find sites? Just out of curiosity, do you tend to go to the same site? Do you door knock? Do you go on your own property? Do you have friends, neighbors? How do you find the place that you detect?
Well, it's a
without giving away any trade secrets.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind sharing what we do because you know what, it takes a lot of time and effort, and that's the key there. You got to put forth the effort. It just doesn't really get handed to you. There's actually a multitude of different catalysts that will get me started on a site. It could be whatever I happen to be reading as far as a piece of history. It could be something I come across on, we'll say, like historic aerials. It could be something coming across through the library doing research. It could be something that we're digging up through the local historical society. There's so many different catalysts that could start a search. Um, and real quick, the library. I'm kind of really disheartened as far as what uh, I don't want to say the mentality is towards the library nowadays. I see libraries disappearing with the favor of going over to digital material, but not everything's digital. And I see our society kind of neglecting that important structure of the community, the library, and because not everything is digital, and I'm sure
Right.
it doesn't serve a purpose to digitalize minutia topics that will eventually get lost. But all right, I ran off on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you. It's easy to close libraries, right? It saves a lot of money very quickly, or taking your materials, and if you have a library, storing them off-site and limiting access to them, or just saying, "Well, the historical stuff we'll give to the historical society somewhere." Well, when that happens, how are they going to catalog it? How are they going to be good stewards of it? How would somebody like Charlie or Sandy Reiser be able to access that information readily? And I think those are bigger questions that don't really aren't really considered. And you're right. I think it is not a good thing. And they really are treasures, and you can find just an amazing amount of information there. I would imagine if somebody is interested in whether it's metal detecting or just relic hunting or visiting historical sites, yeah, it's not digitized. The majority of information out there is not digitized. A lot of it is. More of it is becoming digitized, but certainly not all of it. And if you take that access away, you're really limiting what folks can do, which is sad.
But if we could go back to door knocking for a second, I know a lot of people have this thing, right? I see it on the Facebook and a lot of the Facebook groups. People will ask the question, how do you door knock? And well, again, it's kind of how you handle yourself, right? And the biggest thing that you can do in door knocking is listen. Okay, I had a permission over by Gettysburg of a farmer, and one of the good things I heard that he was talking was he doesn't allow nobody to go metal detecting on his property, but I started listening to him, right? And that's the thing. Usually people will turn their back right then. I don't allow nobody to metal detect on my property, right? And so people go, all right, thank you, bye, and leave. So I didn't really go away. I started listening to him. He says, oh, I've been plowing the fields. And he says, when people will stop me as I'm plowing the fields, and they'll come up to me and want to talk, and they think I'm a historian. It's just a field to me. He says, and I don't know anything about the war. He says, I know it happened. I live here. He says, but this is just a field to me. This is how I make my money, right? So I'm listening to him. And he's actually venting about metal detectors, because we're interrupting his life. We're actually trying to steal his livelihood. Well, towards the end of the rant, he goes, and what's in it for me? He says, we have these people going on my field, taking stuff, and what's in it for me? So my brain, of course, clicked on. I was like, what would you want? Right? And he goes, what? He goes, yeah, I'm curious. What would you want? What would you want for a weekend of me wandering around your field? You haven't planted yet, so you're still kind of good, but what would you want? And that guy kind of leaned back and he was thinking about it, and I was like, how about a case of beer? He says, I'll run to town, I'll be right back. And hey, I don't remember what it cost, 15, 16 bucks then. And it was cheap beer. He didn't even want like the good stuff. He wanted Lion's Head. So it was like, yeah, by all means, I'll be right back. And got his beer and went back and had the weekend on his field. And he was happy. I was happy. And there you have it. I mean, it was a win-win. But again, the important thing was was to listen. You know, he didn't want much. He didn't want $100. He just didn't want to be kind of forgotten or kind of, you know, I don't want to say taken advantage of, but just kind of, you know, it's his property after all.
Right.
So
Do you think that kind of opens door or potentially opens doors if, you know, if he knows now you're going to detect on his property, you're going to do so respectfully, he might say, hey, Charlie, you know, I have a friend who lives 3 miles down the road and he hasn't plowed either. Does that kind of help open those doors?
I'm sure. And, you know, but the problem is then I haven't been back there metal detecting at least yet. And I hope I hope it's the still farmer who has that farm because again,
bring beer.
I'll have it ready. You know, no sense in losing time. But yeah, I'll have it ready. It's actually that has happened twice to me now. Has worked. Where a case of beer and you are good to go. Other times, and we'll go this a little differently. We'll do one that's actually more modern. Of course, I had the article in the Western Eastern Treasure magazine, and the farmer who I actually went to, this is actually fairly local. The farmer I went to was kind of historically conscious of what was on his farm and didn't really want to say it just kind of taken away. All right. And so I kind of used the article to go, hey, this isn't just going to be shoved in a box. It's going to kind of be shared. And I introduced him to the channel and what I'm going to do with it. And I told him, says, you know what, really? I says, if you want everything I find, that's fine. That's great. He says, just let me photo it and let me clean it up and you can have it back. He says, no. He says, you can keep it. I just want somehow when it gets taken out of the ground, just not to be shoved in a box or just be sold off.
Right.
He says, he kind of was like leaning towards, you know, if you ever find anything that's worth not so much in value, but as far as the history nature, would it go to the historical society? I'm like, yeah, sure. That's no biggie. But again, it's communicating. If I just went in there, it's like, no, it's mine, and he probably would have said no. And I would have probably said no.
I was going to say, I think most people would think the same way. If somebody came in my yard and wanted to, I think they'd find anything. But yeah, as long as it was something, if it was something significant, let me know, or at least show me what you found. But yeah, I wouldn't have an issue with it. I think most people wouldn't. Well, I'm going to look back. Were there any questions for Charlie? I want to get Sandy in here too to talk about her channel. But were there any other questions for?
North Jersey Detector says, is that a Pennsylvania beer brewed in Wilkes-Barre, I believe? Yes, absolutely. Lion's Head. I forget what road it's on, but you can actually see the Lion's Head. Oh, boy. No, I can't do it. But I remember I used to take the road and drive by there when I was going to Northeast Pennsylvania. I would see the Lion's Head Brewery. But it's another one of those beers that actually has the trivia on the cap. You know, how many feet does an elephant have? And of course, when you've been drinking, that's a challenge. But
North Jersey Detector also wanted to know if the White House is off limits for me for metal detecting. Yeah, try it, see what happens.
I think the snipers might like
it.
Yeah.
Target practice.
You'd get your 5 minutes of fame.
That'd make it interesting, 5:00 news, guy with a metal detector got shot today in the White House lawn.
All right, let's get Sandy in here. Sandy has I think a fascinating channel. I'm sure a lot of other people do. Ghost Talk with the Reisers. Sandy, tell us about your channel and how did that come about? Why did that come about? What are your expectations for the channel? What do you want to accomplish with the channel?
I actually don't remember how it came about that I started posting the videos, but I've always been interested in the paranormal. The house that I grew up in was actually the old town morgue. and I've always dealt with spirits all of my life, so nothing ever freaked me out. Um, when me and Charlie got together, we actually started doing a lot of cemetery stomping because I was doing a lot of family tree stuff for my dad's side of my family, which I didn't know much about.
Mhm.
And I'm a little more sensitive than a lot of people, and I can hear voices that aren't actually there. So a lot of the times in the cemetery, I would hear things talking to me that weren't there. And I finally decided to tell Charlie I wanted a spirit box so I could actually get proof that these things were trying to say something.
Okay.
And he bought me a spirit box. Was it for Christmas one year?
I don't, I don't know. It's one of those gifts I keep on giving.
Yeah. I think it was Christmas one year. He bought me a spirit box, and I immediately got excited and started recording what I was doing, and it just kind of snowballed from there that I talked to the spirits with my spirit box. And what I want to do with my channel, I do want to expand my channel, but I don't have a whole lot of time to work on it because I focus more on Reiser's Treasure Hunting Emporium with him. I got Allie, trying to raise a 10-year-old is tough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a whole lot of time to work on my channel, but when I do, I love doing it. And I'm horrible at editing, so my videos are just kind of there. And I welcome anybody to make comments on my videos to tell me what they hear in the EVPs, because sometimes I'm unsure of what it actually says. So if you hear something different than I do, feel free to comment on it and tell me what you hear.
Now, you said you kind of early on, you had a sensitivity, is that the right term, towards this paranormal?
I think I'm just a little more in tune with the spirit world than most people.
Okay. So is it something that anybody can do, or do you have to have that?
I think it's something that anybody can do. If you just sit down and tune into, say you're thinking about one of your loved ones that has passed, if you just sit down and tune into that person, that person may come through and want to talk to you, and you may actually be able to hear them. You don't need special equipment to do it. You just need your spirit senses.
So do you research locations that have a spiritual presence, and what kind of research would you do in that case, and what resources would you use?
That's like where the history and the ghost can go hand in hand. I will go to the library with Charlie when he's researching something historic, and I'll research a place that has potential hauntings. And I will read up on it, and I will research stuff. There's a lot of churches in our area that have cemeteries there that I have been researching history on, which videos will be made and will be put up on the channel when I have time.
Well, that's good. Have you ever been concerned about a spirit? You hear the stories about poltergeists or just slamming doors or hiding objects or throwing. Ever had that kind of experience?
The only time that I ever got freaked out over a paranormal experience, I was living at my mother's house, and she had passed away maybe 4 or 5 months before.
Okay.
I was having a really hard time handling her passing, and I happened to have been laying in bed, and I was reading a book. And across my room, I kept seeing something move in my closet. Well, I thought it was a kitten that we had in the house. So after about 20 minutes of this thing moving in my closet, I finally got up to go see, where the kitten was, and I was going to put it out of my room so it couldn't get in anymore. Mm-hmm. Well, when I went to stand up, I looked back over at the closet, and I seen my mother.
Oh, my goodness.
And she just smiled at me and disappeared. It was weird. That's the only time I've ever gotten freaked out.
Okay.
I've never had anything thrown at me or anything like that. I have been touched. Most of the time it's a peaceful touch. It doesn't freak me out, nothing like that. I'm stressed over something and I feel that calming peace come over me when something touches me.
Oh,
So
that's
I do believe most of the time that's my mother looking over me.
Yeah. So if it could happen,
It could.
what question? Well, no. What I'm about to pose, if a spirit could answer a question for you definitively, clearly, what kinds of questions would you want it to, or what question would you want it to answer? Maybe not your mom. I guess that's personal, but I mean, just in general, if you went to you went to the museum with history hunters, and I think you were doing some EVPs in the forest.
Yeah.
What in cases like that? What kind of question do you ask, and what question would you really like them to respond to? And there was no question as to how to interpret her.
Okay, the woods that we went into with Jersey history hunters, I knew nothing about the woods when I first started doing the EVPs. I didn't ask any questions or anything like that. When I first started doing the EVPs, it was just the basic questions. It was, is there anybody here with me? I said, my name is Sandy. Can you come and tell me your name? I told him it was safe to speak into the little black box, that, my equipment wouldn't hurt them. I did basic stuff like that. And then after I learned a little bit of the history of the woods, I made a little bit of connections with some of the EVPs that were coming through, of that I was getting definitive answers because of the answers that I got from the spirits, which will be in a video that hopefully will be up by the end of this week.
All these teasers, Sandy.
I'm sorry, what was that?
All these teasers, that's great. So
I'm hoping it'll be up by the end of the week. I also have another video in the works of a baby doll that could have possibly moved.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm horrible at
North Jersey's favorite.
I gotta find time. Going through the EVPs is tough to hear because it's where all the white noise is in the background. It's hard to pick up what the voices are saying. So yeah.
Right. And I suppose it's like, 100 people could walk by, I don't know, a building and look at some aspect of the architecture, and they could have completely different opinions of it, or what it is, or what it means,
right.
Well, the dollies. Let's talk a little bit about that. The fans of your channel know about what they sometimes call the creepy dollies. How many do you have? How did you get most of them? Well, let's start with that.
It actually started out that me and Charlie went to an estate sale, and when we were at the estate sale, something kept pulling me into one certain room.
Okay.
Charlie was looking at some stuff in one room, and I walked into the room, and I was the only other person on the floor besides Charlie of this particular house that we were at. When I walked in there, I heard something say, "Hey, choose me." Well, when I heard that, I happened to have looked at this doll. And I picked it up and I went, I got to take this thing home with me. And I took it to Charlie and I was like, I want this doll. And it snowballed from there.
How many do you have?
I honestly don't know. I've gotten some of my dolls from thrift stores, estate sales. My sister, if you watch Charlie's channel, she does house clean outs. She actually, when she does house clean outs, if she finds a doll, she sends it directly to me. It does not enter her house. She does not like my dolls. So yeah.
So her reaction to dolls is like your reaction to snakes.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I'm scared of living things. She's scared of inanimate objects,
Do you think a lot of people have, for some reason, maybe North Jersey Detector can chime in on this one. That they have an aversion to dolls. Do you think
a lot of people do.
Think dolls in particular, or even objects in particular, can draw spirits? I don't know if I'm terming that the right way, but in other words, you hear about places, right, having paranormal spiritual activity. Do you think when it happens, is it necessarily place, object that?
You're breaking up really bad, and I can't understand what your question is.
I'm sorry.
No.
As far as the doll, is it better now?
Yeah.
As far as the dolls go, do you think dolls themselves draw spirits, or do you think it is the location? Do you think it's maybe the person? It's a combination.
I actually think it's a combination of things. A spirit can be drawn to anything from a living person to any inanimate object. I've had a spirit that's followed me since I was little, and that spirit will never go away. My dolls, I think some of them have some spirits and some of them don't. But some of them just look creepy. That's why I keep them. I like to scare my kids with them. Yeah.
And I think there's some people in the chat who could be scared as well.
What was that?
I'm sure there's some fans in the chat who would also be scared to death to get a doll. I won't mention any names.
I have a son-in-law that refuses to even come in the house anymore as long as the dolls are here.
Well, you could use that to your advantage, I suppose.
That is true. When we don't want company, we just put the dolls
There
out.
you go. Well, you mentioned one interesting, very personal spiritual experience that you had with a relative.
Right.
What was another interesting experience that you've had that if one were to hear it, there are skeptics out there, and that's okay. But
Yeah,
if they were to hear it, even they might say, yeah, gee, that makes you think. Or are the experiences tend to be more short phrases or those gentle touches? Or
I mean, the only time I've ever actually seen a spirit, there was a few times. I've seen my mother, which that was just a calming thing. I was upset over losing her, and I was going through some other stuff at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
She was just there to let me know things were going to be okay. And after that incident, I did feel things were going to be okay, and things did get better. But where we live right now, it's it's actually highly active. I would come home from work about 10:30 at night, 10:45, and I would go to pull in the driveway, and I would see the same man standing in the driveway every night. And I did a little research on the history of the house, and I really do think it may be the old owner of the property. And I can't really say that would be something that people can't dispute, because they can. Nobody else has seen it but me.
Sure.
Charlie's had a few different encounters here. I don't know if he wants to talk about them, but we've had a few things happen, but I've never caught any of that definitive proof that I can say this is definitely a spirit, because there's always some way to debunk it.
I think we've had two that were probably on that range of beyond coincidence. Two that come to mind. One was at the Brandywine battlefield when we were near the tavern. And
oh yeah.
Well, I forget what the word was.
Charge.
No, not
yes,
only. It was charge, and it was something about the tavern. Was it free drinks or drinks?
Oh yeah.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Huh.
I think the other one too is the German POW cemetery that we have fairly close to us.
Finn's Point.
Yes, at Finn's Point. Now, it was quiet. It was quiet. Doesn't seem like nothing too much was going on. Then we tried doing some high school German. It's the only time I've ever used my high school learned German in my entire life. But sure enough, once we changed languages, did we start getting responses back? And unfortunately, I think there was a couple of responses back in German.
Yeah, it was actually mostly in German, and I couldn't understand it.
That's interesting.
I forgot about those ones.
So you gotta watch your own videos.
I do watch videos. Okay, one other thing. A lot of people have said that they thought they seen the dolls move in my Halloween live stream. I've gone back and watched that live stream numerous times, and the only thing I see moving in that is my shadow because of the way the lighting was.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think any of the dolls moved in that.
Just
to clear that up.
Did you enjoy doing the live stream, the Halloween live stream?
No.
No. Okay.
I'm not comfortable in front of the camera, and I probably won't be for a long time.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. But that was really interesting. So do you think we'll see more of that sort of thing, but with you off camera on your channel?
Possibly. I mean, I do a lot of EVP sessions with the dolls, and I don't post a lot of what I actually do anyway, because I don't get anything.
Yeah.
If I don't get anything, there's no sense in posting a video.
Right.
If I do get stuff coming through that makes sense, I will put it up. But like I said, I don't have a whole lot of time to do videos, so when I have free time, I do work on them.
Now, what do you refer to what you do as? What phrase do you use? I don't want to say ghost hunting is like the common, I guess, parlance, but how do you?
I'm not a ghost hunter.
No, you don't.
I
Ghost whisperer, ghost listener, ghost.
I guess that's what you could
ghost
say.
Translator, ghost detector.
I don't really know how to put a label on it because it's just a hobby for me. And, if I happen to film it and make a video, okay.
Well, it is ghost talk. So,
well,
ghost
yeah,
talker.
I'm a ghost talker.
There you go. We'll go with ghost talker. Okay. And we'll kind of wrap it up with what recommendations would you have, Sandy, for someone who either is experiencing the same kinds of things or maybe they aren't, but they want to delve into it a bit more? What would you have them do as far as what should they read? What should they watch? How should they train themselves? What should they do?
Just open yourself up to the spirit world. Just, be calm and listen to what they're trying to say. You don't need fancy equipment to talk to them. You can have just a plain old tape recorder and turn it on and say, is there anybody here with me? Listen back to it. You may get a voice. You don't have to go out and buy all the fancy recording equipment like ghost hunters on TV. You don't have to do all that. You can just be in tune with it. Somebody that wants to start doing it, just, go to a location is supposed to be haunted and open yourself up to it. I can't really say who to watch because there's so many ghost channels out there. But unfortunately, there's that skeptic in me doesn't know if they're true or not, so I don't recommend ghost channels.
Yeah.
The Panic D Paranormal that Charlie watches, I do recommend them. That's probably the only channel I would recommend for the ghost type stuff.
Okay. Panic D Paranormal.
Yes, Panic D Paranormal.
Okay. Excellent. Is there any place you'd like to go that has kind of a supernatural, spiritual connection. I guess we'll do the same. You won the lottery, and you can take some time off and go traveling, and not a place where you're going to get shot.
I would actually like to do some of the castles in the UK, which we've actually talked about that before on one of Charlie's live streams. But Charlie might not like my answer with this one. I want to do the Hinsdale House, or the Dandy House, as some people know it as.
Oh,
it's
okay.
in New York.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of research on that lately, and one of our viewers actually told us about it, and I never knew anything about it until I started researching it. And I would love to go and do an investigation there, but where it's supposed to be demonic spirits, I don't know if that's what I really want to do. So I'm kind of on the fence with that place.
Yeah.
But I love hearing other people's experiences and stuff. So if anybody does have a story they want to share, they can email me, which Charlie can put my email in the chat.
Which one?
Ghost Talker. You know, they can email me their stories, and they may end up seeing a video of it. You never know.
Yeah. Please do. All right. Well, let's see. Are there any other questions from the chat? Because I think we're just at 3:31, so we'll probably wrap this up here if there aren't any questions. Let's go back and take a peek. I didn't see any really. Oh, Hoosier, thanks for stopping by. He's heading out.
Bye, Hoosier.
All right. Well, Charlie and Sandy, this has been really fun. Thanks for giving us a little bit more information about what the impetus behind your channels.
Oh, thanks so much for having us.
It's really
Yes,
it's the
thank
people
you.
behind it, not the content's important, but it's really the people behind it. And you're good folks. You're really interesting folks. You have some really interesting backgrounds, and I appreciate your sharing them with us.
Oh, well, thank you again.
Yes, thank you.
And be sure to tune in Tuesday nights, 7:00, Reiser's Treasure Hunting Emporium. And this week is the game night, yes?
Yes, that's right. This week is the game night.
All right.
That's slowly evolving as well. We did that first trial run, and it was okay. We kind of saw what worked and what didn't work, and it's a work in progress, like anything else.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Well,
That's not what you want to get from us.
well, hey, it's a fun time, that's for sure. All right, well, we'll sign off then. Thank you everybody in chat for coming. This is a really good time, and hope to see you all later, and we'll see you Tuesday night.
All right, fantastic.
All right, take care. Thanks again.
Good
You
night,
too. Thanks,
everyone.
now.
Bye.
Bye.